AutoSys Web UI installation in single server mode on Linux with an Oracle database. In this module, we will learn how to install AutoSys Web UI in single server mode on Linux using an Oracle database, configure it, and validate the installation. Prerequisites and considerations. To install Web UI, the recommended machine memory size is 8 GB RAM. An instance of CAEM must be installed and accessible. We recommend installing CAEM on a dedicated server. CAEM must be running when you install Web UI so that registration can occur. Otherwise, you cannot install Web UI. The password for the user IAM-admin will be required during installation. REST web server, which is installed by default when you install AutoSys Workload Automation, is required to enable enterprise command line and forecast functionality with Web UI. Before installing, stop performance monitoring, antivirus, and anti-spyware software. The database schema should be set to case-sensitive before installation. AutoSys Web UI uses two databases, one for configuration, forecast, and monitoring, the Web UI database, and another for reporting, the reporting database. They can be the same database or two different databases, depending on whether you want to have reporting and the amount of data to be stored. AutoSys Web UI includes an internal database Derby, but is not intended for medium to large sites. We recommend using an external database, Microsoft SQL Server, or Oracle. The Derby database is not compatible with high availability. For an external database, the database must exist. An Oracle database user granted with DBA role, DBA tablespace select, $parameter select, and create session authority is required to create database objects during installation. If you specify Oracle TNS and the Oracle database is on a remote computer, copy the tnsnames.ora file to the computer on which Web UI will be installed before installation. Do not change the name of the tnsnames.ora file. After Web UI is installed, do not delete the tnsnames.ora file or move the file to a different location. Web UI allows the Oracle service name-based connectivity. For more information, refer to the AutoSys Workload Automation documentation. This video will demonstrate the installation and configuration of the AutoSys Web UI in single server mode on Linux. We will use Oracle as the database. We begin by validating the connectivity with all necessary components before the installation of the Web UI. Let's validate if we have connectivity to the CAEM server. We ping the CAEM server and receive a response. We can reach the CAEM server. Let's use a telnet command to verify connectivity through the CAEM port. We connect to the CAEM server using the port. Now, let's ping the database server, and we receive a response. We have connectivity to the database server. We do a telnet command with the database port. We connect to the database server using the port. Now we ping the AutoSys server, and we get a response. We completed the connectivity validations. Now we mount the Linux AutoSys DVD. To connect to the Oracle database, we have copied the tnsnames.ora file generated during database creation with the database address information to this server, the Web UI server. Now we go to the installation directory in the DVD. We begin the installation by executing the install program and wait until it launches. Once the program launches, the installation wizard appears. We press Enter to continue. Press any key to read the license agreement or 0 to go to the end. Press Y to accept the license agreement. Press Enter to accept the option 1 to install the product. Select option 2 for the custom install. The Express option is only for the AutoSys server installation. Press Enter to select the Java bundled with the product. Select option 7 to install the Web UI, also known as WCC. Select Yes to install the components required by the Web UI, the Web UI collector, SDK, and SSA. Now, we provide the installation path for the Web UI. We press Enter to leave the default. This is the installation path for the shared components. We press Enter to leave the default. We are not going to enable FIPS 142 encryption. We select option 2 to use an Oracle database. We select the option 1 to create the reporting module. For this demo, we will select option 2, password with Transport Network Substrate TNS, as the Oracle authentication method. Select Yes to create the database schema. Oracle Storage Management. For this demo, we will select option 3, Oracle Managed Files OMF. You can choose the most appropriate for your installation. Select Yes to create table space, database user, and roles. We enter the TNS alias name as defined in the tnsnames.ora file for the Web UI database. We enter the directory where the tnsnames.ora file is located. Now we select if we will use the same server for the reporting database. The Web UI and the reporting database can be the same database or two different databases. For demonstration purposes, we will choose to have them separated. We provide an Oracle administrator user with the necessary permissions to create the Web UI database elements. We leave the Oracle Sys user and enter its password. We select Yes to use the same credentials to create the reporting database. Enter the user that will be the database schema owner. We leave the default WCC admin and enter the password the user will have. This user will be created during the installation. Select Yes to use the same credentials for the reporting database. We leave the default table space name WCC data. We enter the TNS alias name for the reporting database as defined in the tnsnames.ora file. We leave the default table space name, WCC data, for the reporting database. We enter the name of the Web UI database user. We leave the default WCC and enter the password that the user will have. This user will be created during installation. We enter here the name of the CAEM server. And the CAEM administrator user password. This is the information for the web collector component. We leave the name and port numbers by default. Specify the name of the owner and group of the Web UI files. We leave the default AutoSys for both. Select Yes to create the user and the group if they don't exist. We can start the Web UI services once the installation is complete. We select the No option. We select the Yes option to start the Web UI services at System Startup. These are the services that will start at System Startup. Press Enter to select both. Now the installation summary appears. The summary shows where the installation logs will be written. The type of installation is Fresh Custom. The components to install: the Web UI, the collector, SDK, and SSA. The installation paths: the database Oracle, We have two databases, WebUI and Reporting. The WebUI properties. We press Enter to begin the installation. The installation was completed successfully. We can see the URL to access the WebUI and the location of the installation logs. We press Enter to exit the installer. Let's go to the Logs directory. These are the logs, including this that is the detailed installation log. We have completed the installation of the AutoSys WebUI on a Linux server with an Oracle database. Now, let's start the WebUI and configure it. First, we check the status of the services with the ustat command. The services are not active. Let's start the services with the uni srv cntr start all command. The services are now running. We now open a web browser and launch the WebUI. This is the WebUI login page. We log in with the EJM Commander user. The default password is also EJM Commander, equal to the username. This user was created during AutoSys installation and has the highest privileges. It is recommended to change the password for the AutoSys default users after the installation. This is the WebUI. Let's configure it. We go to the Configuration tab. We are going to create a new server. Enter a name to identify the AutoSys backend server you want the WebUI to access. In case there are several AutoSys servers, the server name must be unique for each server. We enter the name of the AutoSys instance to which we will connect. The application server name. In this installation, it is the same server where we have installed the AutoSys server. The default application server port is 9000. We enter the AutoSys Web Services URL we got during the AutoSys server installation. The field tooltip displays the typical URL format, the application server host address followed by the defined port and AEWS. We can also get this URL from the AutoSys installation log. We go to the AutoSys server and open the detailed installation log. At the end of the log, we can find the URL. We copy the highlighted part and paste it into the Web Services URL field. Each server definition must specify a user ID and password for the monitor user. This user gathers job data from the AutoSys instance on behalf of all WebUI users. First, we need to create the user in CAEM. We select the AutoSys application to create the user, and then log into CAEM. Once logged into CAEM, we go to Manage Identities. We click on Users, and the new user panel appears. Enter the name of the new monitor user. We select AE Monitor as the name. Select the AutoSys applications and enter a password for the user. Save the user. You can also add users by referencing an LDAP server like Active Directory as the source for storing users. CAEM will authenticate and authorize the user to access the allowed resources based on the user access rights defined in CAEM. Let's verify if the user was created. Here we have the user, AE Monitor. We go back to the Web UI configuration and enter the AE monitor user and its password. We save the server definition and then click on Done. And now we are going to validate the server we just created. We select the server and then validate it. And we received confirmation the server validation was successful. Now we go to the Credentials tab. Here we can associate the Web UI user with a user in the AutoSys Linux server. In this case, we have a Linux user called Teacher that we will associate with the Web UI EJM Commander user. We enter the Teacher user and its password on Linux. Select the Add option. We get a Not Validated message. We select Validate. Now, it is verifying the user exists in Linux. The user is validated. The EJM Commander user can now execute Linux commands in the enterprise command line and do forecasting. We have completed the Web UI configuration. Now, let's do a test to validate that the installation works correctly. We are going to create a test job. On the Quick Edit tab, select Create. Select the server name. And select the command option to create a command job. We enter the job name and select the agent machine to execute the job. We enter the command the job will execute. For example, the ls/command. We also enter the standard output file for the command output. And the standard output error file. We also enter the job owner. This is the user that will execute the job in Linux. And we save the job. Now, we go to the Monitoring tab and create a view to list the jobs. Select the Add option and enter the view name. In this case, we enter the name All Jobs. Then, we create the filter condition. We select the AutoSys server and enter the filter condition. We filter by job name like asterisk to select all job names. We save the expression, the filter, and the view. Here we have the view. Double-click on the view name. Select the Jobs and Alerts tab. This is the job we created. It is in an active status. Let's force the job to start and wait until it is completed. We check the status, and the job has now run successfully. Now we open the job details and go to the ls command output. This is the ls/command output. With this, we have confirmed the job has run successfully. Let's now go to the Servers tab and select the AutoSys server. Select the Open Scheduler Log option. This is the equivalent of the AutoSys log command with the E option to open the scheduler log. Let's now execute a command from the Enterprise command line. We select the AutoSys server and execute the chk_auto_up command. With this, we validate that the credential association between the Linux user and the Web UI user is working. The command was executed successfully, and here we can see the output. Finally, let's look at the agents. Here we have the agent installed during the AutoSys server installation. With this, we have completed the AutoSys Web UI configuration and validation. In this module, we learned how to install AutoSys Web UI in single server mode on Linux with an Oracle database, configure AutoSys Web UI, and validate the installation.